Good evening. Good evening, everyone. No, you're okay. Janet wants to delay the meeting because the AC is so nice in here compared to her home right now. All right. Well, good evening. I'll now call to order the July 23rd, 2026 regular Finance Commission meeting. Tatiana, please take the roll call.
Commissioner Giuliani, Commissioner Ho. Here. Commissioner Rubin.
Here.
Commissioner Quaid.
Here.
Chair Stanton Trahan.
Here.
We have quorum.
Great. Janet, was there something that we needed? Cool. All right. We'll start with public comment. So in an effort to better manage the business on the agenda, general public comment will be limited to 30 minutes at the beginning of the agenda. If there are speakers remaining in the queue, they will be heard at the end of the meeting. If you'd like to make a public comment for items not listed on this agenda, please submit a public comment card or raise your hand via Zoom. Tatiana, are there any public comments in person or on Zoom?
We do not have public comment on Zoom nor in person.
Thank you. All right, we'll continue with the consent calendar items. Items listed under the consent calendar are considered by the Finance Commission to be routine in nature and will be enacted by one motion unless a public comment has been received or a commissioner requests otherwise, in which case the item will be moved for separate consideration. Do we have any members of the public wishing to speak on a consent calendar item?
We do not.
So, any commissioners have any comments or questions for items under the consent calendar?
No.
If I may, Chair, just a real quick comment on item 4, the monthly budget report. I just want to make sure everyone got, there was an ad doc that just corrected two of the HR and finance to show that to reflect that there was a budget adjustment during the year when HR broke off from finance. And then the second thing I just wanted to point out in the at the very end of that report is a quarterly sales tax. We have a sales tax consultant, HDL, that reviews sales tax with receipts every quarter with us, and they produce most sales tax data and information is proprietary and you can't share it on a business by business basis. However, they provide sort of an aggregated newsletter that gives you the top 25 sales tax producers in town and just some economic stuff, economic outlook stuff. So those are the last 2 or 3 pages of the budget report, and we'll continue that'll be on a quarterly basis, but when we do receive those, we'll continue to include those.
Why don't we hold just so Nick can give us a quick update on our budget? How about that? Sure. Let's just pull it real quick. So we'll pull item 4, and but for the other items, would someone like to make a motion?
I move that we approve the other items, all other items on the consent calendar.
All right. All those in favor say aye. Oh, I don't have a second. Sorry.
I'll second.
Great. Thank you. Okay. Any comments? Okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye. Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Awesome. All right. Let's pull item 4. And Nick, just give us high level how we're doing and how it's going to turn out at the end of the year.
Overall expenditures, we're actually a little below budget targets. This is through May, so we should finish the year. We anticipate finishing the year a little bit under budget on the expenditure side. We're kind of right at budget on the revenue side. So depending how we'll continue to collect some revenues in July and August that are actually accrued back to this current year because they're attributed to that year, which we'll go over in the year-end report, year-end closing report. But so we anticipate sort of just hitting the mark on revenues, which is all good news. And then just to reiterate on the sales tax update, again, it's the last 2 pages. This is just a real high level sort of what South Pasadena's sort of sales tax market looks like, and then sort of just an overall LA County. You'll see just locally our biggest major business groups are restaurants, followed by the county pool, which is basically everything you buy on the internet we get a share of that based on our population. So it's not allocated based on where it's delivered to. It's just because you buy it on the internet, it goes into this pool and then allocated out. And then fuel stations are our third highest. So we're primarily food based here. And this is I thought it was extremely interesting, but the top internet or web based sales for the last couple quarters actually. Number one is Amazon, as no one would be surprised. Number two, this is going to be interactive. Anyone guess who number two is?
Uber Eats.
It's Grubhub. But Uber Eats, which is insane to me that people are spending that much money on like not going to the grocery store, but like ordering Uber Eats. Like it's not that far back behind Amazon, which is insane. But anyway, that blows my mind.
I only say that because my neighbor, teenage kids, orders McDonald's to the house. We live 5 steps from McDonald's, like 2 blocks we're away from McDonald's, and Uber Eats comes to the house and delivers McDonald's.
Yeah.
Wow. That's the reason I know.
So that's a business that we actually get a decent amount of sales tax from because we get a sort of a share of the county pool. So that's all I have on the sales tax update.
Any questions, comments? And Nick, maybe you remember, but I think there were some additional expenditures City Council approved, and that's all been accounted for. We made it up somehow.
Yes, and there's actually there was one area, and we had talked earlier this week. There was our capital expenditures are way below what they were budgeted, and so actually the reason for that is those are primarily there's an IT project that we have, which actually is our customer success center. That's all very software based. So those funds were all encumbered in this current fiscal year, but we won't spend them till next year. We're going through that implementation now. So that non-expenditure is all for those IT and software related purchases that we're going to start making as we implement the customer success center. So that was an excellent question, but a good opportunity to kind of point that out.
And then my last question. Tying back to our cash on hand, and I think we've had some questions at the Finance Commission. Could we put some of it away? Do we keep it all in cash? And I know this year was really let's figure it out. Let's see how the cash flows go. How are we looking? Maybe start investing some of the money or not?
Yeah, so I think July's a month that we have a lot going out the door. I think we had like $15 million go out the door because we upfront pay our annual pension cost, which saves us like 7%, but it's like $6 million. And then we have our insurance premiums that are all due for the year in July, and that's like another $3.5 million. So there's a pretty significant amount of money. So we like to be very liquid in July and August and September, and then we'll probably review after that, at that point as we stabilize.
Thank you. Any other comment, question? Monthly budget? Awesome. Well, if there are no more comments or questions, would someone like to make a motion? Just to receive and file?
Okay. I make a motion to receive and file the monthly budget report.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All right. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Awesome. All right. Passed. All right. We'll continue with the action and discussion items. Item number 5 regarding year-end closing process and audit schedule. And this is part of our kind of educate the public, educate the Finance Commission theme that we had this year, right? We talked a little bit about this at our commissioner convening, I think it was called, not a Congress. Yeah. Commissioner convening yesterday. Yes. We highlighted, Ely, I know you weren't able to make it, but we highlighted the fact that our commission started this sort of theme-based approach. We had a yearly calendar. We picked themes for every meeting, and we started to educate the public on sort of what goes on behind the scenes. So thank you again to the staff for always putting something on for us. And this should be a good one.
Yes, and so thank you, Chair. And this is our only action item tonight. So hopefully I'm going to be extremely thorough. So the next 45 minutes I will use for our presentation. So good evening. So this is, as the Chair mentioned, an informational item walking through the city's year-end closing process for fiscal year 25-26 and the anticipated schedule for the upcoming audit. So the purpose of tonight's report and presentation is to provide the Commission and the community insight into the year-end close process that we go through every year, which is critical to providing timely and accurate financial reports. Although we go through what's called a soft close process each month, the year-end is a hard close, which means after all transactions are recorded and the audit is completed, no more transaction can be posted to that fiscal year. If there are any adjustments, they're actually a restatement in a future year. Consequently, there are a number of accounting entries that we only process once per year, and we have 60 days after the last day of June to review all transactions to make sure they are posted to the correct fiscal year, which means the year-end close process takes longer than a typical month. So let's get into it. Each year, once the fiscal year ends on June 30th, Finance undertakes a structured closing process to make sure every revenue, expenditure, and account balance is accurately recorded in accordance with GAAP and applicable government accounting standards. This is the foundation of the city's financial statements are built on and is integral to receiving a clean bill of audit from the city's independent financial auditors. It's worth noting up front that most of these 7 areas that you see on the screen involve work that happens all year long, either monthly or quarterly reconciliations. But each one also has a piece of work that can only be done at year-end, once the full fiscal year's activity is known. I'll call out both the ongoing cadence and the year-end only steps as we go through each area. So revenue expenditures, expenditure recording obviously happens continuously. Transactions post throughout the year, and each month is reconciled and closed as part of our normal monthly close cycle. And grant-funded activities typically reviewed on a monthly or quarterly basis depending on the grant's reporting requirements. What's unique to the year-end is the accrual cutoff review. So going back through invoices and receipts processed in July and August and tracing them to the correct fiscal year, so that revenue expenses are recorded in the year that they were actually earned or incurred, regardless of when the cash is moved. That cutoff work can only be done once the fiscal year is over and both June and the following month or two of activity are known. So what happens is we rely on the departments to indicate what fiscal year it's in. So there is a lot of analysis that tends to go on, and as we know, people will make mistakes and sometimes put it in the wrong year. So as we review it, it might go into 26, 27. Then we'll have to reverse that expenditure and put it into 25, 26, which will really throw off, as we do all that cleanup, it really kind of throws off our monthly budget report. So you'll see, we'll actually probably have a July and August monthly budget report before we have the June monthly budget report, because there's so much activity that goes on. And quite frankly, the first quarter is very muddy, and there'll be confusing things that happen in the first 2 months, because again, we're reversing things from one fiscal year and putting them into another fiscal year. So, and we'll talk about that. We can talk about that a little bit later, but it just makes, I would say, July and August budget reports a little less meaningful. We can provide, we'll still provide those and they'll be very tentative, but we'll caveat them, quite frankly, probably a lot, because they won't have the meaningful numbers usually start to come September and sometimes even October. So, we get that to look forward to in the next couple months in the budget reports. So bank reconciliations, which I think this body has heard a lot about over the last few years. So bank recs and cash and investment position reconciliations are also performed monthly throughout the year, and receivable and payable balances are reviewed on a monthly or quarterly basis as part of routine accounting. Again, what's done only at year end is the fair value mark-to-market measurement of the city's investment portfolio. Mark-to-market made famous by Enron a couple years ago, but we use it in a different way than they did. So GAAP actually requires mark-to-market, and that our investments are reported at fair value at the end of each year on the balance sheet. That adjustment is only calculated once as of June 30th. So we're not doing that on a monthly basis. Year-end also brings a full final aging of every receivable and payable balance to make sure nothing outstanding is missed before the books are closed. So again, those are on our balance sheets as payables and receivables, and that full accounting is done just at the end of the year. We don't do that every month because there's so much in and out that it would again be meaningful. Wouldn't be meaningful on a monthly basis. Capital asset additions and disposals are logged throughout the year as well, as projects are completed and equipment is purchased or retired. And depreciation is typically calculated on a monthly basis. Again, what's unique to year end is reconciling the full capital asset subledger to the general ledger, confirming physical inventory counts, and finalizing the depreciation and useful life schedules that will support that ACFR. So this comprehensive review is only done once per year. I mean, if you've gone into Target and, late at night on a weekend at the end of the calendar year, and you'll see them with their little things and they're kind of tipping, and they're usually doing inventory, a physical inventory. We obviously don't have that much inventory, so we don't do that extent, but we do need to inventory all of the pipes we have on hand, any parts, anything like that. That's done once per year, and again, that's valued and put in our financial statements. So debt service payments are recorded as they're made. Principal and interest on the city's bonds are typically due on a semi-annual basis, and the compensated absences balance, and that's actually the accrued, that's how we account for accrued vacation and sick leave. So even though me, for example, I haven't used my vacation, I have a bank of X number of hours that has a value because the city's going to have to pay that out at some point. So that's called accrued vacation and sick leave and has a value. That's updated with each payroll cycle. At year end, we do recalculate and record the full long-term liability of compensated absences. So on a monthly basis, based on any employee, if they take vacation, that balance will go up and down. We don't actually value that until the end of the year. Then we'll put whatever their hourly rate is at the end of the year to calculate the long-term liability of that balance. And then we also record long-term debt and liabilities for pensions, retiree health, workers' compensation claims, and general liability claims. These are all done based on an independent outside actuarial report. So people that just love numbers so much, they just data crunch them every day and use all these demographic inputs. So we get at least a reasonable number on what these liabilities will cost us over 20 or 30 years. And again, those actuarial evaluations are performed annually, and sometimes actually for like retiree health, those are every other year and are recorded through a year-end adjustment entry. So again, that's something that's only done once a year. Payroll itself is processed and reconciled every pay period, and benefit and pension contributions are remitted and reconciled on a monthly basis. Year-end recording, at year-end, we record the net pension liability and OPEB, again, what I just mentioned back in the past slide. So those are payroll and benefit related. So those are done once a year, and again, recorded based on outside actuarial valuations. So as I mentioned earlier, each accounting period is closed on a monthly basis as part of our regular close cycle, with the trial balance reviewed by fund every month. What happens only at year end is the final formal closing of the entire fiscal year. Again, we call that sort of a hard close. That locks all 12 accounting periods, so no further transactions can post in fiscal year 25-26. And that's the last step to preparing for the comprehensive audit-ready trial balance that becomes the basis for the final financial statements. That final close can only happen once every other step in the process, including the actuarial-based liabilities, is complete. So what we'll do is we'll record, all of our liabilities and everything at period 12. We typically close that. Then we're ready for an audit. If there are audit adjustments, the auditor says this, you didn't record this, long-term liability correctly, then we have what's called a period 13. All of the audit adjustments are done in that period 13 to kind of keep the sort of 12 months a little bit cleaner. Period 13 has all the audit adjustments, and then what you see in the ACFR in the final is sort of the accumulation of periods 1 through 13. So unlike the other 6 areas, when preparing the schedules and documentation for the independent auditors, it's inherently a year-end only once a year process. So it's not something we do monthly or quarterly. We don't prepare these year-end schedules for auditors. So once the books are closed, staff prepares the supporting schedules, reconciliations, and documentation the independent auditors will need. Sometimes you'll hear these referred to as PBC or prepared by client lists. These include working papers supporting each major line item, investment fair value calculations, actuarial-based liability entries, and having really good, thorough, well-organized schedules ready before field work begins helps the audit run efficiently and stay on schedule. So that's the thing that Mark and his team are very good at, is making sure that those are the less work the auditor has to do, the faster we get through the audit process. So Mark's already, knee deep, and he's bugging Public Works right now to get their inventory in, and there's a lot of things going on right now. So that he knows by the beginning of September, he wants to have all the schedules ready to go. So that's why we were able to get 2 audits done in 3 months last year. So this is our tentative timeline for the 25-26 audit. Interim audit procedures, which is preliminary work the auditors do before year end. So I think they might have come in May, but that's mostly testing for internal controls and other, they do sort of fraud questionnaires and a bunch of that sort of non-financial transaction stuff is all part of the interim preliminary work, and that has already been done. Departments are completing their closing activities now through August, and that's submitting, all their final invoices. Audit schedules are being finalized August through September, and then year-end field work, again, that's the auditor's main on-site work performed after the books are closed. That typically runs, I think we have it scheduled this year for September 21st through October 2nd. I will say, just like, when we all do our taxes, sometimes tax man changes our schedule based on how busy they are, but we do have a tentative schedule on the books with them in late September. From there, we move into drafting the financial statements in November. Auditor reviews and makes final revisions in November and December, and then if there is time, we aim to take 2 presentations of the audited results to this commission on potentially December 10th, and then the City Council on December 16th. And then the whole process wraps up with submission of the ACFR to the Government Finance Officers Association. They have a Certificate of Excellence in Financial Reporting Award, and that has to be submitted by December 31st for consideration for that Certificate of Achievement. The December 31st is kind of a hard deadline. I will say that it's a very tight deadline to actually get a presentation to commission before that. We'll try, but if anything moves at all, then we'll probably come back to you in January, which is typically, that's what we did this year, and typically it'll be in January. But we have to have goals, so we set a goal for early December.
Just bring back the hardware, okay?
Yeah, that's right. And with that, I'm happy to take any questions.
So, as you're in the midst of your closing procedures right now, I'm just curious, is there like some kind of tracker where you're kind of already tracking these true-ups or adjustments to monitor how you may fare compared to total year budget? Because obviously some of these are like annual adjustments. They could be sizable, I'm assuming, right? If they're only done once a year. But do you have a sense of like?
So we're still actually pretty early in the process, relatively in the process. But Mark definitely keeps a checklist, and we're knee deep in it. But for some reason, I gave both Mark and Will the day off. So, but he would tell you that he's got a pretty comprehensive checklist that him and Ashley, our senior accountant, both go through, and it's just following up. So actually, like right now, usually the month of July, they don't have a lot of like hard data because it's a lot of chasing the departments to get information from them, like particularly on inventories and really just, Tatiana's always following up with people to make sure you get your invoices in, so that we can get them into the AP run. So most of like July is following up, and when as information comes in, it doesn't come in consistently. So it's hard to say like, oh, well, compared to last year, our revenues look like X or our expenditures look like Y, because they could change drastically in one pay period, or we go to get the mail and there's a big, property tax check that we weren't expecting, or there's a small property tax check that we weren't expecting. So it's hard to, in July, it's sort of hard. We have a better idea probably toward the end of August as to like so from a liability standpoint, those don't necessarily change a whole lot. Because we do them every year, and those actuary reports don't really change too drastically unless there's a new variable, like CalPERS changes their discount rate or something, but we usually know that ahead of time. So I would say probably we can give and I can probably have Mark give a little bit of an update on the audit process in August. It might be a good idea just to kind of say, a check-in. August we're going to do sort of a grants. That would be our grants day. But it would be a good opportunity to have Mark give a little check-in on where we are at that point.
Sure. Yeah.
But I think we're in pretty good shape. I mean, overall, we're in pretty good shape. I don't see anything super out of whack. It'll be this next year that coming up where we did a lot of stuff with the budget, where we had all these internal service funds that we are adding and all that. So this year it'll be a little bit harder year, because I don't expect there to be as much budget savings. I don't think there's as much cushion. There's not cushion next year. There was a little bit more cushion this year, I think, just because we didn't know, where we were at when we started the fiscal year.
Anything else? No? Awesome. Thank you, Nick. Yeah. Tatiana, do we have any public comments on this item?
No, we do not.
Awesome. Do we need to this is just discussion, right? No actions?
File? Receive and file?
It's just discussion, a kind of a receive and file. I do think the one thing I just did want to bring up, and we sort of talked about it already, is really this year-end process is why, again, June, July, and August budget reports aren't super meaningful. So I just wanted to forewarn you all that they're going to look a little funky once we get into probably. I don't know that we'll actually have any budget reports at all for our August meeting, because that would typically be June. In our September meeting, we'll probably have the July. We won't have June, but we'll have July, because we can at least do in July. We'll have payroll and we'll have other invoices. So we'll provide the budget one, but just kind of a heads up, the next one won't probably be until your September meeting. And that actually also will be another good opportunity. That actually might be a better opportunity to kind of check in with, Mark, have Mark give a check-in in conjunction with that report, since we'll have some July data on like where we are on the audit process and how we're looking as it was compared to last year.
So that's in the September meeting.
That's September meeting, correct? Yeah.
Great. All right. Well, thank you. It'll get no action. So we'll go on to communications. Do we have any communications from the City Council? Councilmember Braun.
No, I just thank you all for everything you do. And these meetings have just become so pleasant. So thank you for that. The one thing we had talked about a couple of years ago was maybe like getting some information on, now that we kind of have a very good grip on our accounting and our budget and everything else, is sort of the OPEB liability. There was talk about bringing in sort of some of because I'll admit I don't have a great handle on that. I can read it in the notes to financials, but sort of where those liabilities stand or some of the outstanding debt, because I know we're talking about possibly refinancing some of the water bond debt. I just think those would be two interesting topics for this commission.
So actually, that's almost like Councilmember Braun.
Almost like it was
throwing me a softball. So, and I almost forgot, but for August, in addition to the grants, actually what we do want to bring back is, so we have a Section 115 trust, which is setting aside funds for our pre-funding our retiree health liability. That was set up. That's an excellent financial decision. That was set up a couple years ago. But we just set up with CalPERS, and there are other options that we can get a much better return and have more control over the money that's in there. So we're actually wanted to bring that back to the commission in August to talk about some options on the Section 115. See if you're interested. If you are, we can recommend to City Council at looking at other options on 115. That is the retiree health and OPEB liability is very closely kind of related to the pension liability. So we can certainly bundle that together and talk a little bit more. I mean, we don't have as much control over what we do with the pension liability because of CalPERS, but we have a lot of control and options on the retiree health. So we will actually be bringing that forward in August to kind of discuss that with y'all.
It was one of our themed months, just general talk about it.
Yeah.
So it's good to just keep bringing it back.
Yeah. And I think this one will be a good opportunity to be more specific, particularly on the 115, because we actually have data on, what our returns have been being in CalPERS's version of the retiree health trust, and like what other competing trusts, what we could have earned if we were in something else. So that it'll be a lot more granular than kind of that overall. So it should be a good meeting.
Otherwise, thank you.
Great. Any other communications from finance? Okay. Communications from the commissioners? Name, start with you. No? V? Vice Chair? Wade?
I would like to commend Tatiana on her budget reports. She's doing a great job.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
You're
Great.
welcome.
And Nick, I love the fact that you're educating us. Thank you.
That's great. I would just make the comment. I think we've come a long way in a very amount of time. I remember hearing about all the stories prior, and I think Nick, what you've done with your team, Todd obviously as a leader, but you've instilled, I think, a lot of confidence. Like I think we come in here really calm and ready, and we just are hearing how great you're managing expectations, managing the budget. You're very transparent about everything, which is what we have asked for. And so I just want to congratulate you, the team, Tatiana, you're part of that team, of course. And, all the way through May 31st, we have a really great looking budget. And so just a huge congratulations and thank you. I feel like our city's really taken a huge leap. And it's all due to you and your leadership. So thank you.
And the employees work together well, and they seem happy.
Yeah.
Culture
too.
Yeah. Yeah. The whole culture has changed in a very positive way, and it's so nice to see. So nice.
No pressure.
Yeah. Keep it up.
All right. Well, I think that's it. I think we'll adjourn the Finance Commission meeting at 7:05. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Woohoo!